Greetings everybody, this is Omar Al-Ansari Krieger for a second video publication for the Internationalist Academic Federation of the Continental Collective. I just thought that I would put together a brief video segment that would basically disclose the regulatory attributes that formulate the infrastructural resources that essentially make the functionality of society an actual possibility. Now, to get onto that initial ideal, we essentially have to take a look at all of the infrastructural resources in which any human civilization will universally necessitate, regardless of its placement throughout the international community. Obviously, every human civilization requires a sense of rules, a sense of jurisdiction, a code of ethics, laws, in order to ensure that equal rights, due process of justice, and that as well as interests, not just special interests, but generic social interests within the sovereign social mechanism are actually protected. Excuse me there. Essentially, that's what needs to be ensured in order to make the best interests of our surrounding society, to ensure a competent sense of functionality. Hopefully I got somewhere with that. However, and also, before we even implement a set of rules, before we even implement a set of laws, a judiciary system, if you will, that encompasses the regulatory norms of a society's legal system, there needs to be an in-place central governing apparatus that provides the framework, that provides a sense of essentially enlightenment, a sense of basically reference to these norms that allude to the principles in which its corresponding sovereignty actually corresponds to specifically. Now, that may seem a little compound, but I mean, essentially, you need to have a central government, you need to have a national government, a federal authority, in order to have any judiciary authority, in order to enforce basically ethics, codes, and really rules of the law before the mainstream citizenry, and as well as other elements of society, whether that's the elements of the military, whether that's elements of the social elite, being like the upper classes, the institutions of society, whether they're corporate, non-profit, but all in all, it surrounds one continuum, which ensures that every denominational block in society comes into compliance with one ethical code. Now, which is the generic rule of law. Obviously every legal system has its own different variations. However, the initial constitutive law has a universal tendency to encompass a number of tangible qualities. Now, apart from government, we also realize that any functioning society requires a functional base of commerce and economy. Now, obviously, we need to have some sort of basically fluctuation of finance to ensure our own fiscal survival. I mean, a government needs to have some sort of monetary resource in order to stimulate its survival, in order to industrialize, in order to provide for its populaces, in order to build its infrastructure, in order to be technologically proficient. Excuse me. However, when we factor in all of these mandatory resources that necessitate a society's survival, functionality, nonetheless, even though there is a great ideological, philosophical context behind these qualities, it also does come at a material cost. And we require resources, we require nourishment, we require accommodation. These are human necessities that will continuously be prevalent regardless of our time frame, when we even pry into our primitive ancient past, all the way to, say, the distant technological future that has the tendency to baffle my mind and any mind that seeks to contemplate and reflect upon, say, a civilization of the distant future. However, in this sense of being, every civilization, every historical era, as well as every potential future era, will be confined to finite resources. We always have a sense of limitations that confine society's survivability, and which essentially limits what we cannot do, scales of importance, scale, or basically what I'm trying to say here is a degree of priority that establishes a relatively sense of well-being, sense of functionality, sense of survivability for a corresponding society. However, when we actually do consider our finite resources and essentially how our accommodating planet Earth, our accommodating universe, that's what I meant to say, the planet we inhabit is Earth, our accommodating universe, there are so many finite resources, especially now when we take a look at the surge of capitalistic growth. So many resources are basically consumed in the process of its replication, and the surge of capitalism across the international community, especially after the conclusion of the Cold War era, there definitely is quite a bit of a burden that is placed on humanity's shoulders at the dawn of the 21st century. So that's why human civilization must fundamentally focus on its proficiency, on its self-sufficiency, and as well as attempting to, if you will, get the biggest bang for our buck, to find some efficient renewable resources that will stimulate our survival, that are finite, but at the same time are quantifiable, or plentiful, excuse me, quantifiable, not a word, but essentially confining ourselves to that continuum. But I will leave it for this brief video segment, and we'll look forward to receiving any comments. And as I was saying, still new to this video making thing, so please bear with me, and I would appreciate your comments, and thank you for watching this video.